Hi, this is Ben Lopatin with Wellfire Interactive. Today I want to talk to you about some of the reasons you may find it difficult and costly to make changes to your existing Django site. Now let's back up for a minute. Django, the web framework for perfectionists with deadlines, isn't known for being difficult to work with, and in truth, it's not. However, any application running long out of production, written in any framework or language, tends to become more difficult to make changes to, whether those are minor updates or new features. What I want to do today is give you an overview of some of these reasons so we can create strategies for assessing and cleaning up your code base, making it easier to add the features you need on your site. These challenges tend to group into four top-level categories: technical debt, out-of-date software, test or lack thereof, and necessary complexity. We're going to walk through each of these in brief. You can't talk about existing software or legacy software without talking about technical debt. There are a lot of descriptions and definitions of technical debt out there, from shortcuts other developers have made that you have to live with, to careful trade-offs made to optimize for near-term business goals. It's a little bit of both, but I'd summarize by saying that technical debt is manifested opportunity cost. Some previous development team was faced with a decision to make. They had two options in front of them, and they chose one. The cost of not choosing the other is what you now have to deal with. But this isn't necessarily bad programming. A lot of people confuse technical debt with bad programming, and it's rare that bad programming is the cause of technical debt. By bad programming, think infinite loops, the kind of code you look at and think, a team of drunken monkeys must have written this. Usually it's because there was some sort of change to business strategy or features or some sort of use that the previous team couldn't anticipate. They made the best decision with the information available at the time, and everything changed. The world around the application changed, and now there's structural issues that you have to deal with. This is technical debt. Out-of-date software, like an older third-party library or a backing service, makes updates to your site more difficult because it creates an anchor against which you have to check every other requirement. Let's take a third-party library, for example. This library may make use of a Django API that's been since deprecated in newer versions of Django. If you upgrade Django, you have to upgrade this library as well. That's well and good, and you probably should do that. But if this library hasn't been kept up to date, or newer versions have other changes that require you to make other changes to your application or to third-party libraries that dependency requires, now the scope of your changes are magnified much beyond what you initially anticipated. This is true also of backing services. If you have a part of your application or a third-party library that makes use of features in a database that maybe are version specific, you might have to upgrade the database in conjunction with upgrades to the application or your framework. Tests, or the lack thereof, are another reason it can be difficult to make changes to your Django site. Tests, or the lack thereof, are another reason it can be difficult to make changes to your existing Django site. Tests come in four flavors: great tests, no tests, bad tests, and slow tests. Any combination of the latter three will make it more difficult to make changes to your site. No tests means you have no way of verifying whether any changes to the code base break anything on the site. This is risky and it slows down development, as it probably should. Slow tests mean that the test suite takes forever to run, for whatever reason. Now this is a tendency of slowing down development because you have to wait for the test suite to run for every single change. This gets old, and developers have a tendency of not running test suites that take a long time. Bad tests can be bad for a number of reasons, but they could be bad because there's all kinds of errors in the test suite. That is, it's not really running successfully, or it is running successfully, and the tests just aren't meaningful. The last reason is necessary complexity. This comes in two flavors: computational and domain, but in short it means that some Django apps or any program have high degrees of complexity that are unavoidable because the problem they're trying to solve is unavoidably complex. Now this could be because the problem an application is trying to solve requires some algorithmic complexity. More often than not, it's a domain issue. An application models an industry, domain, or business-specific process where the names and rules are predetermined outside the application, are complex, and may be opaque, especially to new developers. I hope that wasn't a lot of doom and gloom. In the next videos in this series, we'll dive into each of these reasons in more detail, as well as some of the strategies you can take to make it easier and less costly to make changes to your existing Django site.